Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the Extra Mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now, your host, Jackson Mummy, owner of the Celebration Bar Review.
Well, hey everyone, welcome to episode 116 of the Extra Mile podcast. This is Jackson. So glad that you're with us today and glad to share some time with you. As I'm recording, today is about the middle of October, and I keep hearing a phrase in political commentary that's called the October surprise. And we have an October surprise in the bar exam world as well. And that October surprise is always built around the question of when will New York release their bar exam results. Now, as I'm recording today, just to be clear, they have not yet released results. But by the time this episode is published, I think it's very likely that they will have released. My expectation would be somewhere between today, the 15th, and about the 22nd, I would expect New York results to be out. Now, with the new uniform bar exam, that may change it, but typically what happens in New York is there's no warning at all, and if you are a New York bar taker, you know this, you just get an email in your inbox, usually shortly after midnight Eastern time, telling you to go check your results, or here are your results. So I know there are a lot of night owls taking the New York bar exam this time of the year who check their emails every night right around midnight. That's probably going to continue for a while. So I think we might have an October surprise. We'll see if I'm got my crystal ball working well or not. But as we wait in October, we're waiting not just for New York results, but we're also waiting for New Jersey. We're waiting for Texas, California, Georgia. So we've still got a lot of big states out there that have yet to release results. Now, earlier this week, there were results out, I think, in Arizona and Pennsylvania, a couple of other states. We're beginning to see some of the multi-state essay exam and UBE jurisdictions producing results. And no great surprises there. The results continue to be relatively low or depressed, depressed being an operative term, I suppose, but certainly low pass rates generally around the country in the official state release numbers. We'll dig into that more as we get more information. I will say that I've been very pleased that the students we've got in those jurisdictions, and we don't carry a lot of students in those outlying jurisdictions, but the ones we've got seem to be doing quite well. And we've got some Hangout interviews coming up shortly with some of those people. You heard, or we've got one coming up with an Alabama bar taker. We've got one coming up with a Tennessee bar taker. We're trying to get around the country and pick up people in different jurisdictions. So some multi-state bar takers and others besides just the big jurisdictions. So that's kind of what's happening in the bar exam world as I'm coming to you today. Now, in today's episode, I'm going to be chatting with a successful Florida bar exam taker who passed the bar exam on her first try. I'm particularly excited about her story because she comes from a okay law school, not a great law school, and I'm not throwing shade at her school, but you know, it's not Harvard and it's not Georgetown or UVA or Stanford or anything. And she was a good student in her school, but not the best student. And she used some techniques that we're going to talk about today, including PhotoReading, when she studied for the bar. And the amazing part of her story is that she scored in the top 2% nationally on the multi-state bar exam. I think you're going to really love hearing the story of how she did that, so stick around for that interview. I also want to invite all of you to join us on Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, that's 12 noon Pacific, for a live webinar, masterclass, called How to Make the Next Bar Exam Your Last Bar Exam. This is a look at the 4 steps that passing bar takers have to follow in order to get a passing result, and I think you're going to find it really useful information. Now, attendance is free, but you do need to register for your seat, and you can do that in a couple of different ways. You can go to our website at celebrationbarreview.com. You'll see a big button at the top there that says Claim My Free Seat. Just do that, and you'll be all registered and set up. You can also text the phrase Next Bar Exam, all one word, Next Bar Exam, to the number 33444. Again, the number is 33444. Text the phrase Next Bar Exam. We'll get you registered that way. And if for some reason Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern doesn't work on your schedule, if you go to our homepage, celebrationbarreview.com, you'll see another button there where you can schedule a private showing of that information, and we encourage you to do that as well. I think you're going to find this to be really useful material and information. Many of our successful students, went through this webinar before they began their studies, so I think it's material you can really find and make useful. One other quick note for you logistically, we've just upgraded and updated our podcast player on our website. So if you go to celebrationbarreview.com and you click on the podcast button, you'll see a newly designed page there and an opportunity to search by topic or name any of our past episodes. Also a mobile player, and pretty cool. You can also find us on iTunes Radio, or iTunes on Apple, and iHeartRadio. And all you have to do on either of those is just type in the search box Extra Mile Podcast for bar takers or bar exam takers, and it should pop us up there. And we appreciate the support that all of you give. This podcast continues to grow in scope, and I really appreciate that and appreciate your thoughts and comments. Well, I'm really anxious to share this interview with Kristine Scott that we've got coming up. She's a lively and fun person to talk to, and she has a great story, and I think you're going to really enjoy what she's got to say about how she studied and successfully passed in the top 2% of the country on the Florida bar exam. Let's jump into it. Well, hey everyone, welcome back to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Takers. This is episode 26. I'm really excited today because I'm talking to a student that I really enjoyed spending time with, and she's got a great story to tell, an incredible success, and I really want to share that story because it's pretty impressive, really, all the way around. So welcome, passing Florida bar taker, Kristine Scott. Hi, Kristine.
Hi.
Nice to have you with us today. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, this is pretty exciting times for you, huh?
Yeah, I don't think it's like quite settled in yet.
Yeah, you just got your results a few days ago, and why don't you tell our audience a little bit about your background and kind of what happened? You're a first-time taker on the Florida bar and passing, and kind of tell us where you went to school and what you did, and let's get a little bit of background.
I went to Florida Coastal. I was planning on transferring out after my first year, but I ended up really liking it, so I stayed. Right now I'm actually at UF getting my tax LLM because I want to be an estate planner. And I went to FSU for undergrad, so being here in Gainesville is not really that fun, but they did lose this past weekend, so that was a little bit of a happy note, but that's pretty much it.
Wait, I got to just stop. For those of you not in Florida, you have to understand Florida State, University of Florida. I got no dog in that fight, but yeah, they're not a happy couple. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So there you are, doing your tax LLM, and a few months ago, you contacted me about the Florida bar.
Yep.
And what was that like? What were you thinking about getting ready for the bar exam?
I guess I was more worried about overdoing it just because I know personally, like, I can overwork myself, and so I wanted to pick something that I didn't necessarily have a timeline to check off. It was more of something that I know some of the other programs have, like, an actual timeline, and so, like, if you don't get everything done on one specific day, you're in the red, and I just knew that would be something that was just taxing on, I guess, my like, quality of life over summer, and I knew it was going to be pretty much bad, but I knew that going in, and I was confident after talking with Dan and you that I could balance it and not kill myself. And I think you had to tell me one or two times that I needed to take a break. And I don't think I would have gotten that anywhere else. So
yeah. When did you actually start studying for the exam?
2 weeks after graduation. So the very end of May.
Yeah.
I think.
So from May until July. And how many hours a week were you studying, do you think?
I did at least 6 to 8 hours a day, and I didn't really take any days off.
Right.
So
that's not true. You went on a boat trip.
Yes, I took 2 days off for the 4th of July because you forced me to.
Yeah, I know. I'm so cruel.
Yeah. I got sunburned.
I know. I remember that.
I wore clothes out onto the boat, and I got sunburned through my clothes.
Nice. Hey,
yeah.
The sun is hot in Florida, so there you go. So you were studying about 6 to 8 hours a day. You had been, one of the things you had said to me when we first talked before you started to study was that you didn't think that you could manage to sort of balance it all. A traditional bar review course would just overwhelm you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I guess it's more along the lines of, they have this whole online component to track you, and their way of tracking my studying, I knew just wasn't going to align. And so even just seeing, their timeline and I'm behind according to them, knowing that, that's not what I would do well at, just seeing that would just totally throw me off. And so I like that essentially everything was flexible on our study guide. And so if, say, I was behind on an essay and you knew that and you were like, oh, just read ahead and we'll go back. And it wasn't like this big deal, like, oh my God, you're 2 days behind on your essays. And so I like that a lot. And I think the program really speaks for itself. Everyone that knows about Celebration has nothing but really good things to say. And so I think that's also a really big factor in choosing where you want to do your bar prep with, because the best recommendation or sign of a good program is just by word of mouth. And if I know I've gone out of my way to tell probably 6 people about your program just since I took the bar. Yeah. And I told a couple of 1Ls. I was like, don't do the big box. Like they're sitting out in the courtyard already, advertising. And I was just like, that's a ripoff.
Yeah. Come here, little 1L. Come here.
Don't do it.
Yeah. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what it's like as a 3L coming out of law school. Most of your friends are in one of the big bar reviews. Your school did even a bar prep course within the school. And there was a lot of pressure on you to kind of go that direction, right? That was sort of everybody does it, so why aren't you doing it? Was that true?
They even made it free.
They made it free for you, right? Yeah. They really wanted you to do it.
Yeah, they made it. And they actually made a requirement for graduation for us to take their multi-state, which was essentially the Barbary MBE, and that crash course for a grade, in addition to basically saying, hey, we're going to give you this bar prep free as a part of your tuition. And so obviously they're preying on the law school students who are, in debt, and free bar prep sounds really good. Yeah. But then you look at our pass rate, and obviously that's not really working for them. So I wasn't going to do anything that my school was putting forth. So luckily my supervisor at my externship told me about Celebration, or else I would have never found you guys. You guys don't really market too much.
No, we don't have that much capacity.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. Kind of, we're a well-kept secret. Yeah. So I wanted to talk, one of the things that you did in the course, you used photo reading, right? Can you tell us about photo reading?
It was, the first 2 lessons, I think I finished just laughing. I was just like, what do you mean? Put a tangerine on my head and, tell myself all these affirmations. And I was just like, this is a load of what. Like, this sounds stupid. And I think you asked maybe 2 or 3 weeks into it, and you're like, so how's your photo reading going? And I don't know if it was just my face or what, but you were like, you haven't done it. And I was like, no. And you're like, well, just humor me. And so I went back and I started to listen to the things again. And I was just like, okay, I did my 5 lessons. I can tell them I did my 5 lessons. And slowly, because I'm very much type A, OCD, I graduated pretty high in my class doing my study regimen. And so I was like, why, don't fix it if it's not broken. And so, my parents were like, are you sure you want to do this new stuff that your coach is telling you? And I was just like, no, but I'm paying him to teach me, and I'm just going to take it as it comes. And slowly I began to notice doing multiple choice questions, because I feel like, because I am so in my head and a conscious thinker, I would read through the problems, have this, gut instinct to mark a completely different answer than what I had set in my head as the correct one. And at first I'd pick my answer because, I was 100% sure that, I was right and this indigestion was wrong. And so, but I would make a little mark on every question I didn't change to my gut. And I think it was the first time I did that, out of the 11 questions I got wrong, 10 of them were the answer that I was just like, why would I pick that? And so I slowly just transitioned from always putting my gut and then putting what I thought was the answer. And what I thought was the answer was never the correct one. And so I think that going into it, I thought that I already had, I guess, a good foundation for the MBE, just because I had taken that course at school. But after I started using my, intuition and my subconscious mind, I was like, wow, I didn't think I could improve much, but I ended up seeing a result. And I think being able to, you say I'm data driven, or I like to see the results instantly. And I think that was the final thing that kind of made me succumb to the photo reading. And it's a real thing, even though, the type A people out there think it's crazy. And it literally, it felt so awkward to go against everything that I did in law school to do your program, even the photo reading, the new writing style. I was not allowed to write one note card, and that was my
I'm cruel. There's no question. No,
that was my. I think I told a couple of people at school how, they've all got their big Ziploc bags full, and I was just like, take that away from me. I'm not even allowed to write one. And they were like, what? You're not allowed to write note cards? And I was just like, no, I haven't made one single note card. And it it's complete polar opposite of what I got through law school with. So It was physically uncomfortable for me to transition. But once I did, it so much easier, really. Yeah. Once you can get over that hump.
Yeah, and you said you're data-driven. Florida gives us the scores afterwards, and I don't know if you know this or not. You scored in the top 2% nationally. Yeah. So take that. Take that, folks.
Why didn't you tell me that before?
Well, because I wanted to see the reaction on your face when I told you. So, to those of you that say, yeah, photo reading, that doesn't work, that's all, yeah, top 2%, folks. And, there you go. So congratulations. I mean,
Thank you.
Awesome scoring. But also very different than anything you had done. One of the great things, I think, for those who are listening and watching, one of the great things that Kristine did was that she would ask questions and challenge and ask, but then ultimately, if she could see the results when you were doing things, you would say, all right, I see why that works, I see why that makes sense, and I'll do that. And then you were very teachable. And I emphasize that in the course, and I emphasize it in these conversations with folks later, that sense of being teachable, of being willing to try, really makes a difference. And one of the things I noticed, Kristine, as you started to move further into the course is that you gained more and more confidence, that you saw that you knew how to do this and you were going to be okay. And even though there were the moments of freak out that I think most bar takers have periodically, for the most part, you knew that you were getting better and better and better and better, right, as you were going along. Mm-hmm. And so what was it like for you going to the bar exam? Now, you've studied differently than your classmates, differently than your friends. Now you're showing up at the bar exam. Talk us through that process a little bit, if you would.
So that whole weekend, I wasn't able to do anything study-wise, which really made me anxious because everyone, I felt like, was cramming up until, midnight on Monday when we started Tuesday. And so that kind of, obviously, I think that's just a little, peer pressure. You almost feel like you should be studying. Yeah. And so that was a little weird. And but then, what was the question? Yeah. And okay, so you give us our email instructions, mm-hmm. and Julie told me, it's like, hey, we have homework. And I was like, what do you mean we have homework? And she's like, yeah, you better go look at your 4-column exercises. And I was like, you told me no studying. And so I sat in bed and I read through those. And then the next morning, I was obviously really nervous. I don't think any form of studying will take care of, the nervousness you feel the morning of. But after, and then walking into an entire convention center full of just tables and rows up, and it was crazy. I've never seen so many people in one room. But so you sit down, and then we got our essays, and I don't think I've ever written until less than a minute was left. Mm-hmm. And I normally can finish early, and I typed until I think there was 34 seconds left, and I was just like, oh my God. And then, they say, stop, blah, blah, blah. And I get up, and I was just like, holy crap. I'm not crying. They gave me contracts, and they gave me torts, and they gave me federal con law. I was like, holy crap, that was not bad at all. And, I think I felt so, so bad leaving and having a smile on my face, seeing some people leaving crying. And I was just like, get that smirk off your face, stop. And, but I wasn't smiling because I knew I passed. I was smiling because I think you go into it thinking it's going to be this horrible experience in the same breath. I mean, it's definitely not fun, but to know that you didn't miss something, or there were probably some people that left not having a clue about what they were supposed to talk about. And just having the confidence and being able to say, I know what they were trying to ask of me, and not that, I hit it out of the park. It was more of just having the confidence to know that I was talking about the right things, not necessarily like the quality of my writing. I just knew that if I was going to fail, I probably would have left crying. And there were some people that left like that. And then once I was done with the essays, I was just like, it's all downhill from here. And I think I FaceTimed you with Travis, and we told you what the essay topics were. And then you told us that it was going to be BA on the multiple choice, and Tiffany, his fiance, was just like, well, they haven't tested evidence and wills in the same administration over summer, over 10 years or something. And I was just like, well, Jackson said to look over BA, so I'm going to look over BA. And then I opened my book, and it's wills and evidence, and I was just like, what the heck? But I really liked wills, so I didn't really spend too much time studying that anywa's. But
for those of you that are just wondering, she just threw shade on me, folks. I blew it. I missed it. I missed the call. So there you go. All right, fine. Okay, I get that. All right, so it was wills. That was one of the multiple choice topics. Thanks very much. But you survived it, apparently, quite well.
Yeah.
And again, I would say photo reading, the fact that you were able to go in and just be intuitive about it, certainly helped and got you through that section. And then the next day in the multi-state, doing the same thing again, obviously with spectacular results. What was the process like of waiting for bar results?
My waiting probably wasn't like most, since I'm doing this program. I honestly didn't think about my results until Sunday night when they were released on Monday, because I honestly don't have time to think about it. Yeah. So I probably don't really have the same experience as some of my other classmates did, because I know that some of them were they had job offers contingent on them passing. So that 55 days were, hell. And so they thought about it a lot more than I did, but in the same breath, I think the program was a little bit of a blessing, because if I had the time to worry about it, I'd probably worry myself into knots.
Yeah, that could have been tough.
Yeah.
So results come out on Monday. Tell me about that.
Well, Florida just releases your file number, your Part A, Part B, and then overall. And then I think there was like another column where it said if you're eligible to be sworn in. And so I looked at I found my number, and I was kind of freaking out because all of the numbers surrounding mine were like probably 20 in a row fail. I was just like, oh my gosh, I really hope like I'm the first one that says pass. And I found my number, and I think I read the line 5 times just to make sure that I was reading the correct scores. And I was like, pass, pass, pass. And I was just like, ah! And I screamed. And then I went back to bed because I didn't sleep the entire night before. And so after I called my parents, of course, which they both started crying. So it was much a win for them as it was for me, since they had to put up with me all summer.
Yeah, for the families go through this process too, don't they? I mean, you were studying at home, and I know
they didn't want to hear one more story about Jackson made this joke on the podcast, and they were like, okay, like
we're over this guy. Yeah. Yeah. Enough of this guy. I get that. That's awesome. A terrific story and terrific experience. And I know you're going to be a great lawyer. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about it. Just super smart, super hardworking, and really able to put all this together. What advice would you have for somebody that's in law school right now? Maybe they're in their third year of law school, and they're thinking about what to do about the bar. What would you tell them?
First off, obviously, since I've already been recommending your program, I would be, I've told them to, FaceTime you, get to know you, and just kind of, I think it's better to have like a one-on-one interaction with the person that you're going to spend, probably more than 8 weeks of your time with. Mm-hmm. And I think if you don't really, not jive, but you obviously can't not like each other. Like, that's just not going to work. So I respected how you could essentially know what each person needed to hear, or they didn't need to hear, or stuff like that. Because I could, one of my friends would say like, "Oh, this is what Jackson told me today," and I was just like, "He's never told me anything like that." And it just goes to show that your students on a level that even if everyone's learning the same information, the program is formed to each person. And I think that's what the big box bar preps lack. It's very much just a system, like a robot, like, "Oh, here, this is what you do, and good luck." And that's completely different than what I got with you. And it's just, I honestly think I'm spoiled with how my experience went compared to some of my classmates that like had a horrible summer. And I didn't have a horrible summer, but obviously that brings me to another thing. This program isn't going to be a magic pill. If you have to actually work and like,
who knew?
Don't put in the effort, then it doesn't matter. You could have the law school gods teaching you bar prep and you still fail if you're not willing to put in the effort. And because I think a lot of people think that if they check off the box and they just do it at face value, that they're entitled to pass. And I think with your foundational materials and your coaching, if you are willing to do the work, I honestly don't know how you could set yourself up to fail unless you just had a bad day, which I completely understand with the bar.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your kind words. And I think the truth is you worked hard. You put in a substantial amount of effort. You followed directions. You were open to doing what it took, even when it was weird and strange, like photo reading. And you really applied yourself to this process. And I think that's great advice for people to follow, that they have to be willing to do the work and they have to be willing to follow the process and go through it. And I think it's wonderful that you have the success, and I so greatly appreciate the kind words, but also the fact that you're sharing your story with people. I know it'll inspire a lot of folks. It'll encourage a lot of people who are in law school right now who are thinking, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" Yeah. And maybe it'll even help out a few of those people who are thinking, "Man, everybody's telling me I got to take the big box bar review, but maybe that's not right for me."
No.
You knew what was.
You're even competitive price wise. I think your basic entry level is $2,000 cheaper than Barbary and Kaplan's.
Yeah, I mean, on a lot of levels, we try and do it differently. So, it is different. Well, I appreciate so much that you're taking time out, because I know that doing this LLM is time consuming. There's a lot going on.
I have homework.
There you go. I mean, wow. Seriously. So photo read it, will you? Just photo read it. And but just want to congratulate you again. It's such an accomplishment. And not only did you pass, you killed it. You killed it. And we're really proud of you and really excited to see what you do as a member of the bar in Florida. I know you're going to be a great asset to the bar here.
Aw, well, thank you, Jackson.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to all of our audience. Thanks for being with us today. I love doing these Hangouts. I love them when I get people like Kristine that I can share these great stories with. So this has been fun. We'll be back, later with another episode. We got lots more people to talk to coming out of the Florida exams and some other state exams. And again, just want to thank everybody. And thank you, Kristine, for being with us today. Well, that's our episode for today. Thanks so much for joining me and for being part of the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. Now, if you'd like to catch up on prior episodes or check out the show notes, you can do that by going to our webpage at celebrationbarreview.com. Click on the link at the top of the page for podcasts, and there you'll find all of our previous episodes as well as the show notes. You can also subscribe to the podcast from that site, or you can go to iTunes and subscribe there. Just type in the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers, and you can subscribe and be part of the podcast series. And we would love to have you do that. While you're on the iTunes site, we would also really appreciate you giving us a quick, honest rating and review. That feedback is really useful to me as I prepare these episodes. It only takes about 30 seconds, so I hope you'll do that. Just type in the name of the podcast and give us your rating and review. Again, if you've got any questions or you'd like to know anything else about Celebration Bar Review or the courses that we offer, visit our website, or I invite you to contact us. My email is jackson@celebrationbarreview.com, and I look forward to hearing from you and to seeing you along the extra mile very shortly. See you on the pass list. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at www.celebrationbarreview.com.